There we go. Okay, we're live. Welcome everybody to an all-new DTI Takeover show. For those of you who are just tuning in, I am your host, Miss Kayla. We have a great show for you today. I have Pastor Zanya Robinson of ZMR Ministries. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. I'm humbled and I'm ready to dive right into it.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about yourself first, Pastor Z.
Well, I'm from Dallas, Texas, born and raised. I now live in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
I'm super excited to be living in Atlanta. It's a different vibe, especially for us people of color. I love the togetherness, but I started my ministry, ZMR Ministry, in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
We launched live January of last year, which is 2021, and now we're gearing up for season 2, so I'm excited.
Okay. What made you make the move to Atlanta?
You know, it was a God thing.
Okay.
I got a word from the Lord, and he was like, move. I remember back in 2017, he dealt with me about Atlanta, and I wanted to move then, but it was just the timing. And so this time, whenever he gave me the word to move, everything was already lined up in my life, and I was like, no, I'm pretty settled.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good. But he just started rearranging some things, and the opportunity opened up, and I was gone. I've been there now. It'll be 3 years this summer, and I don't know what took so long. I love it in Atlanta. I mean, I love Dallas. That's home, but Atlanta, I'm like, I love being a peach.
Is there a difference? Is there a difference? Is there a huge change between Atlanta and Dallas?
It's a lot like home, actually.
Okay.
It's a lot like Dallas. I think the biggest thing that I would say the biggest difference is, the Black population.
Okay.
Like, it makes you feel really proud to be a person of color, a Black person living in Atlanta. You see so many professionals. Whatever field you want to go into, there's an example. So you really don't have an excuse.
Right.
To say, I can't do this, I can't do that. If you want to be a doctor, lawyer, a scientist in the music industry, film industry, whatever industry you want to be in, you have an example. So it's like you have no excuse, and I just love that. You feel so empowered. So I love that.
Okay. So what led you to ministry? Now, was ministry something that you always thought you would be into? I know some people say usually if you're called to do it, you really didn't want to do it.
Listen, that is, and whoever said that usually are right, okay? It's definitely not something, I wanted for myself. I was an actress and still am an actress. So I always saw myself being in Hollywood, my name in a life, and, I would just rep Christ on the red carpet, when they ask you questions. And I was just like, I just thank God for all the opportunities and this, that, and the other. But I grew up a church kid, of course, in the South. My parents were in ministry. My grandmother's a missionary. And so it was just inundated in me. And but to see this level of, if you had told me I will be an ordained pastor,
you're like, nah.
Like, that wasn't me. I mean, I left that to my sister. She was a preacher since she was 16, and and I encouraged her. I was like, "You go, girl!"
Right.
But it wasn't me. So when I got the word that I was going to be a pastor, I was actually offended. I was like, how dare you? Absolutely not. That's not me. I'm an actress. I'll be in Hollywood. But as over time, God, he has a way of tugging at your heart. He has a way of drawing you. When everything else started kind of, I wouldn't say the doors were closing, but they weren't opening either. And you just start seeing how God is orchestrating your life, how he's ordering your steps, how your desires for him are starting to change. And then I start falling into this thing of, I think I want to be in ministry. And it kind of scared me a little bit. I was like, but it happened, and it happened so unorthodox, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
That was going to be my next question. Was going to be, what was that turning point for you? It was like, all right, I hear you, Lord. I got to do it.
You know what? Every year, and I say this all the time, every year I do a fast to close out the year. To reflect, to say, okay, Lord, what do I need to change going into the new year? And this time, God, I remember I had just filmed this movie called Lady Luck. We had just shot Lady Luck 2, and I acted in it, and I directed in it, so I was kind of on a high. Like, oh, it's my director debut. We did such a good job. I'm so excited. Now I'm on my fast. Things are slowing down for the year. I'm good. And the Lord said, are you going to finally give me a yes? And I was like, excuse me?
Huh? What?
You know, I thought we were yesing, you know? And he was like, no, you know what I've called you to do. You know what I want from you. I want you in full-time ministry. And so I kind of, you know, did this thing where I thought if I, you know, kind of throw this out there that he would change his mind. I was like, okay, well, if you want me to do full-time ministry, then I'm going to give up acting. I'm going to give up this. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be a writer. And I was waiting for that. No.
You don't have to do that, right?
No, he was like, right. He was like, okay. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, then that's what I'm doing. And so it wasn't until like a month later that I remember I just held it within myself and I didn't tell anybody. I was just like, I'm not going to say anything. This is between me and God. And I remember I went to this prayer service and this lady prophesied to me and she said, God told me to tell you because you were willing to give it all up for him.
Wow.
He's going to give you everything you didn't even ask for. And I just broke down, and I had some friends with me, and they didn't know what was going on.
Right.
But I ended up explaining it to them, and I was just like, you know, now it's just like that's secondary, where that was like the primary thing in my life. Now it's like if I do that, that's cool. But I'm so sold out to the purpose. I'm so sold out to the assignment, and I never thought I would get to that point. Like I had gotten to the point where I was just like, I'm serving God, and that's it. But where I would actually say, okay, that's my turning point where I'm going to dive full-time for ministry, it just happened. And then before you know it, God was just like, okay, he said yes, boom, 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 let's make it happen. And that's exactly how it happened for me. It was just like, I turned around and ordination was coming. Then in the middle of ordination, moved to Atlanta, and then I moved to Atlanta, go to this ministry, and then I go to that ministry, lead that ministry, and then I leave that ministry, now start ZMR Ministries, and I was like, wait a minute.
That's a lot.
And so all of this happened in the last 3 years, which is crazy, but I'm enjoying the ride.
So, I guess, so what made you, was it God speaking to you that made you kind of go from ministry to ministry to ministry to then eventually ZMR? Or
yeah, and you know what? It's so interesting because I didn't even want ZMR for myself.
Really? What did you want for?
I was on the phone with a friend, and we were just talking, and I remember the Holy Spirit just dropped into me, hey, you're getting ready to be in front of cameras ministering. And so I remember I was like, girl, I'm going to give you a ring light. You know, I'm going to start doing some Bible studies.
The lighting got to be right.
Right. I was like, you know, I'm going to give you a little ring light, maybe a little lapel.
Yeah.
You know, and that was it. And before I knew it, you know, it just started getting bigger and bigger, and God started downloading into me, telling me what equipment to get. And it was like that Saturday night, by Sunday morning, I had ordered all of this equipment. And it totally changed my living room into a studio. And then I was ordering backdrops and, you know, sound systems and mics. And he was just giving me all of these ideas for the ministry. And he was just like, you know what? Just like how I called you to be unorthodox, I want this ministry to be unorthodox. And it came and it was birthed during the pandemic. So I was like, okay, Lord, right now, that's when everything was shut down. I was like, oh, nobody's going anywhere. What's happening? And he started giving me the ideas. He started giving me the topics. He started giving me the people and how he wanted the platform to be set up. I'm telling you, it really did feel like a Matrix moment where, you know, they call in and say, hey, I need to learn how to ride a motorcycle. And then they're like, and it happened. That's exactly how the download was coming. And so it ended up being bigger than I ever thought, than I ever imagined. It was quite intimidating as well. And I remember I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, you know, I don't think I'm the one for this. I don't know all the answers. I don't have, you know, I know the Bible, but of course, you know, I wouldn't say, oh, I'm a scholar. You know, I'm not. I wouldn't say that. You get what I'm saying? That's not me being humble. But the moment that you think you know the word, you realize, okay, well,
it's a problem.
Because it's a living word. The moment you think you know it, God reveals and there's other revelation coming. So I really didn't think I was fit for the job. I didn't think I was experienced enough. And I felt like, maybe people are gonna feel like, who are you? You just now decided to give God a yes. And
so who are you to tell me?
Right.
What God's saying.
Qualified. And so I remember he called me, Calvin. He looked at me. We were on FaceTime, and he said, Zonnie, that makes you the perfect candidate. He said, because you're humble enough to say, God, I don't know. I don't have the answers. And if you are not with me, I cannot do this. And he said, that's why God picked you for it. Because he didn't want to get anybody else's heart who wasn't postured toward, God, I need you. He said, but because you're able to admit, I need you and I can't do this without you, that's what makes you the perfect candidate. And I was like, oh. So I was taken aback. I was like, yeah, that part, Lord, that part. So, yeah, that was, it's been bananas. I mean, and it didn't start out crawling, like a little baby. It came out running. It came out with legs and potty trained and all of this stuff. So it's been crazy.
So you were doing you were doing everything, you were streaming everything because this started during the pandemic.
Right.
So like you were doing like Facebook Lives and things like that?
Yeah, so we would go live Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
And so the thing about it is, the great part about technology is I filmed 10 months worth of episodes in 2 months. So you can only imagine how that was. It was sun up to sundown, 18 to 20-hour days, barely any sleep. And so what I did was for the entrepreneur was the What's the Issue Wednesdays, the Girl Talk. They were all pre-recorded. And so I would pre-record them, edit them, and then schedule them to go live. But Mondays, which is Muslim Monday, and then Thursdays, which is Walk the Word, were live because it was Bible study. And then Muslim Monday was the Word of the Week. That gets you kind of going and pumping and changing your perspective, shifting, the way that you're thinking. And I would do those live. Okay. So, it was like, okay, it kind of balanced itself out, but not really because it was still just as busy because I was a one-man show. Right. And so it was like, okay, I had the guests and I did the pre-recordings, but I'm doing the editing and I'm doing the live filming, and then I have to make the posters, and then I got to do the marketing, and then I do the advertising. That's what we do. That's all of us. I'm telling you. Yeah. And so it was just like, Lord, it was a lot more than what I anticipated. And I didn't realize how stressful it's going to be, how overwhelming. You talking about sleepless nights for 10 months, so almost a year. And it was just crazy. And so now, people are asking, when is season 2 coming? I'm like, it's coming. But there's been some delays, and of course there are no delays when it comes to God. It's just His timing. But I remember about a month ago, I was talking to one of my ministry friends, and she said, Zania, you have to realize that you were going full throttle from July of 2020 all the way to October of 2021 with no help. I was doing everything myself. And so she was like on top of filming, editing, learning how to do all of this stuff, doing all the marketing, the broadcasting, the flyers and all of that stuff. She said, not only that, staying on your face, fasting, praying, getting revelation from God, doing the Bible studies. She was like, that's a lot. Like, you poured out a lot. And she said, don't get discouraged because season 2 isn't coming quick enough. And I'm just like, you don't want people to lose interest. It's a new online platform. It's not like I have a big name and big budget behind me. Like, I'm really out here scratching, trying to get it going. Right. It feels like it belongs to the Lord. So whenever, just like He did it the first time, He'll do it the second time. Exactly. Seems like, but right now, you really need to focus on replenishing. And I'm so glad that I have a sounding board like that. Right. Because you would drive yourself into the grave, trying to keep things going. And you just constantly feel depleted. You never replenish. And so you're pouring from an empty cup, which helps nobody. So I'm grateful. I'm enjoying the season of rest.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm ready to dive back.
You said you ready to go.
Yeah.
You done rested long enough.
I am. I really am. But I'm grateful because there were some things that hit in the last few months that it wasn't expected. And so if I was still going full throttle, there's no way I would have been able to handle all of that stuff. So God knew. He knew.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, Ken, I want to dig a little deeper into now ZMR Ministries. Now you listed different things or different days that you do hold different type of things.
Right.
So let's get into them. I need to know what are the different topics or different things that you touch bases on.
Okay. So I'll walk you through the week.
Okay.
So on Mondays is what I call Mood Swing Monday. And when God gave me that, he was showing me how people look at Mondays like Monday blues. You know,
listen, it's Monday. Yep.
Right. And so he wanted to start shifting people's perspective on Monday. You know, you hear a lot of successful entrepreneurs that are like, oh, the only reason why y'all hate Mondays is because, you know, you're not on your grind, you're not as successful as you want to be. Mm-hmm. But it's just not entirely true. Sometimes it's just spiritual. You know, it's like, okay, I'm going back in the fight for this week. Mm-hmm. Because the next time I'm going to church is maybe Wednesday, you know, maybe a midweek prayer, and then Sunday again. Sunday, yep. So I need something to push me the rest of the week that I can hold on to. And so all of our Mood Swing Monday words start with the word or the letters R-E. So whether it's reshift, refocus, readjust, retract, whatever it is, it's a reword. So you can go in saying, okay, I've shifted before, but now let me reshift my thinking, and it's all biblically aligned, you know, to whatever the word God gives me for the week is biblically aligned to help you refocus for the week, whether it's your focus has been wrong, you know, or displaced, or sometimes you just get busy. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. And then you're just doing stuff, and then it's like, okay, I'm doing a lot, but I'm not doing a lot that God has told me to do. So I need to refocus or revisit this place or realign my life. And that's what the Monday word was all about, live. Just to get people pumped up about their week. Like, we're not doing the Monday blues. This is Mood Swing Monday. So we're swinging your mood into positivity. Gotcha. Tuesday is what we call Entrepreneur What. And so every first Tuesday of the month, we highlighted a new entrepreneur because me personally, I'm like, you know, if we're in the kingdom, we're the example to the world. Right. And so if there's a Forbes 500 list, then we should be the Forbes 500. Exactly. Okay. If there's a top 20 billionaire list, we should be in the top 20. You know, if it's a top anything list, we are the example. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so I wanted to highlight entrepreneurs because I'm like, it's our kingdom wealth. You know, share that kingdom wealth. We shouldn't have to look outside of the kingdom for anything. You're right. I don't care what it is. Right. We should be looking at ourselves. So I wanted to bring on people who were entrepreneurs, who had their own businesses, their own companies, and I wanted them not only to just introduce their business, but tell people how you got started. What's your strategy? What's your blueprint? Did you have a plan B? Do you believe in plan B? Right. You know, what is the best way to go? Do you have a merchant? Do you have a business partner? You know, did you apply for an LLC? Are you nonprofit? A lot of people who want to jump into that, they don't know how. Exactly. And so I will bring people on board, and you know, they would talk about their company, how they got started, what they're doing, the mistakes they made, you know, what they would do differently. Some people would say, I quit my job. I shouldn't have quit my job. And some people are like, I should have quit my job. Yep. So it's like I wanted people to have that example on Tuesdays. You know, at the end of the show, I will always say, entrepreneur what? You know, what do you wish you had have known before becoming an entrepreneur? And that question gets them every time because they're like, ooh, you know, I didn't think about that. Right. Look, I was thinking like, to really pour that out there. And so that's where Entrepreneur What came from. Now, on What's the Issue Wednesday, it really focuses on not just topics that's in the church, but since we're talking about ministry, you know, the different topics on What's the Issue Wednesday will come from or derive from topics that are preached about, but they're just kind of touched on. Okay. Whether that's taboo or you just don't have time to really, you know, dispel it in the pulpit. Right. It's conversation. So, whenever I introduce people to my ministry, I tell them it's the gospel preached through conversation. We're sitting at a table. So instead of us preaching to you, we're talking about it. It gives you time to really to really break it down in your mind, to process it, to say, you know what? Okay, now I see what this is saying when it comes to the Bible, but where's the practicality?
Yes.
So when you think about what's the issue, you're like, what is the issue? I'm dealing with this. The world is dealing with that, but we're all dealing with the same thing, except I'm dealing with it in a more biblical way. You're dealing with it in a worldly way.
Right.
So what is the issue? And so we're dealing with different things, not just church subjects. I remember I had a topic where we were talking to mothers who have autistic children, and they were talking about that's the issue. How did you feel when you first heard the diagnosis? Did you feel like less than a mother? Did you feel like you did something wrong? How do you deal with breakdowns? What can you tell other mothers? What have you learned that you can teach someone else, so when they get that diagnosis from a doctor, they won't freak out, that they have hope, and so that's what the issue Wednesday is all about. It's just breaking down different topics and putting it in a more practical and analytical type setting versus just beating you up with the scripture.
Okay.
Because I'm like, you can preach them all day, but when they go out into the world, they need something practical.
How do I apply it?
Okay. Right, exactly. So I told someone the other day, they were giving me just a conversation they were having with somebody, and I told them, I said, we have to realize it's spirit and truth. I was like, if we're gonna worship him, we worship in spirit and truth. So we have to live in spirit and truth. So once you're done fasting, praying, and he come a high in and in the word and this, that, and the third, now when you get up, believe God for your deliverance because still there. Okay, that's your truth.
Right.
Okay, when you ask God for holy boldness on your knees, you have to get up and walk out boldness in real life. Quit letting people talk to you like that. Stand up for yourself. Have better character and integrity. You can't prophesy to other people and then get on your knees and fall out and have prayer and this, that, and the other, and then get off your knees and you still cry.
Go back. Yeah.
No, that's not the way it works. And so that's really what that's about. Of course, Walk the Word on Thursdays is Bible study. It's Bible study. There's no way to break that down other than what it is.
So are you?
We come together. We feast on the Word, which I would do those live. So that was really cool because people would ask questions in the middle of Bible study or comment, and it was just a great way to engage. And then on Fridays, it was Girl Talk. So that's when me and my girls get together. We're talking about stuff that us girls talk about.
Okay.
Of course, keeping it clean and classy. Real raw and classy. That's what we say. Keeping it real, keeping it raw. I don't like keeping it classy.
Gotcha.
But I remember when we first launched the first two episodes of Girl Talk was single, save, sex. And people were like,
yeah.
And I'm like, let's keep it real. We're gonna keep it raw. We're gonna keep it real, but we gonna keep it classy. So we were talking about different things, even how you deal with haters, how you deal with insecurity, how you deal with the dating realm. People I've had people who've gone through divorce, people who've been engaged and it seems like they're a serial dater. When you deal with confidence issues, all kinds of things that we talked about on Girl Talk that you just like. I remember one episode was called "Who Raised You?"
Who raised you?
And you sit there and you're talking and you're amongst other people and you realize everyone has their different perspective.
Yep.
And if we're all honest, we all have a moment where we're talking to somebody and they say something, you're like, what are you talking about? Who raised you?
Where'd you get that from?
Who raised you? So it really shook up our perspectives where we understand, okay, you weren't raised in my house, and maybe I thought my way was right when it really wasn't. It's just a different way to do things. And so I love the Girl Talk because it was a way to just wind down, to let our hair down. We ain't preaching and yelling at nobody, but sometimes the Holy Spirit will do what He does and just take over. I remember one episode. I forget the name of it, but we were talking about, dating outside of the race. Or I'm a grown woman. why he won't grow up. And so, of course, naturally, you know, you would think the men would be like, oh, y'all not immature in some ways.
Right.
But the reality is, you know, women do mature a lot faster than guys. Mm-hmm. However, you know, it took a turn because it was just like, okay, are you really saying you grew up because you ain't delivered? You still bitter. You still need to be healed. Mm-hmm. So you may have grown up in your finances. You know, you may have grown up in your degrees. You may have grown up in your career, but
you
you're
grew
still
up in
a
age, and that's
here.
it.
And not only that, if you're dating somebody and saying, man, why he won't grow up? The question is, why are you with him? Because it's a reflection of you. So something in you is drawing immaturity.
Pastor Z.
And so that's why I really love Girl Talk, because it sets the tone for the weekend. And I've literally had messages. I've had DMs. I've had one lady, she inboxed me and she was like, my girls love your Girl Talk. At first I was a little skeptical, and she was like, but now they listen to it and they talk about it with their friends. That was amazing. I was like, oh my God, thank you. You know,
right.
But you never know the impact that you're making.
Yeah.
And you know, at first when you're starting out, you're like, I don't see the numbers. People aren't watching. They're not listening.
You ain't getting the likes.
And so you tend to get discouraged. But then when you start getting testimonies and you start seeing people share it and they're reposting, or they may not say it out loud, but they'll inbox you. Yeah. And you're like, oh, well, you know, however it's done. And then before you know it, the traction starts picking up. And so I'm just really encouraged by that. You know, I learned not to even pay attention, especially to the live numbers, because a lot of people, they're working. They have lives. They don't have time to get on live. They trying to feed their kids and put them in bed and then unwind so they won't pull their hair out. Right. And they may watch it while they're on their lunch break the next day. Yep. You know, they may listen to it while they're at the nail shop in the car and getting their oil change, whatever it is. You just never know. But at the end of the day, as long as they're tuning in and they're getting the word that they need,
I've done my job. You've done your part. Yeah. I think I love that your ministry, you cover so many different things. You cover like the real and the rawness that you were talking about. You have your Bible study days. You have your Mondays where we're readjusting, or you're realigning, or things like that. It's like you almost cover everything. Just about.
Now do you see why I was like, it became bigger than me? I just wanted a little ring light just to get in front of the camera, you know, on Facebook, and just kind of, you know, maybe say a prayer or release a short word, and then God was like, that's it. No, you think it's too small. You think it's too small. Let me go ahead and open your eyes. You know, let me enlighten you. And so when it became what it is, I'm still fascinated. Like, I remember, you know how you can cast, you know, whatever is on your phone to the TV? And, you know, there were times I was watching it, like, on Roku, and I would turn it on, or YouTube, and now when I hear the theme music, I remember I was somewhere with a girl, I was just like, oh, God, I was kind of fanning out of myself. But I heard the theme music, and I just kind of like, you jump, somebody listening to my music? That's you. And it was someone had sent it to them, and I never went over there, but I was just like, that's me, that's me. But it was really, it's just been really interesting. It's been a very, I wouldn't say fun ride, but I guess over time you can look at it that way. It has been challenging. It has stretched me in more ways than I have ever been stretched in my life. I don't think I've ever been more tired. I don't think I've ever experienced more warfare. I don't think I've ever experienced, you know, the level of fear that I've experienced, feeling inadequate, feeling like it's not enough. You know, like maybe the Bible study could have been a lot better. But it really humbles you and teaches you to totally depend on God. And it really shows you can't do it alone. You can't do it on your own. Because it's gonna suck.
I was about to say, how do you battle the warfare? Like, how do you, like, you know what? I'm not Pastor Z today. I'm Zanya. I'm about to tell you how I feel, and that's how it is.
Listen. Girl, you all in my business.
All in it.
You know what? Just like I said earlier, having a good sounding board. Okay. Having that core group of friends, prayer partners. And I'm not just talking about people who are super holy, because all my friends ain't saved. Okay. But having that balance where, you know, if you're not feeling like Pastor Z, you can call your friends and, you know, your prayer partners, and they don't judge you. They listen to you. You know, of course, they know how to bring you back to the center when you need to be brought back. But countering that warfare, it took much prayer. It took fasting. It took really being in my word. And then it took really good people in my life to keep me balanced. Whenever I would be too deep in it, you know, they would let me know, Donnie, you need to come up for air. Okay, we're not doing Pastor Z right now. We're not talking about ZMR Ministries right now. We're not doing it right now. We're just going, how are you? Have you gotten out to eat today? You know, when's the last time you bought you something? Girl, what? Did you get you a new wig? And I'm like, yes, I got me a new wig. Yes, I got a new wig. You know, so it's like having people who can discern where you are.
Okay.
You know how people tell you when you walk in, read the room?
Yep.
And I thank God that I have people that get on the phone with me and they can read the conversation. They can read past my answers without me saying anything. You know, and they automatically know how to come at me. So
I don't like that all the time, Pastor Z. I don't like that all the time. I'm like, let me be. Just let me be.
I'm telling you, like, I would make that disclaimer sometimes, and still do. I'm just gonna be honest. Sometimes when I'm saying something, I'm like, look, you ain't get the pastor today, okay? Don't come in. I had to tell another pastor. They came in my inbox saying some stuff, and I responded, and they were just like, Pastor Z. I was like, no, you didn't get Pastor Z.
Right.
I was like, because you didn't come in my inbox as Pastor so and so.
Right.
So now you're gonna get Z.
Right.
So now don't get all spiritual on me now. You know. Stop playing. I am from the hood, okay? Oak Cliff, Texas. Don't get this tea. Don't get all this Holy Ghost, and all of that.
Right.
Don't get it twisted, because, you know, we can take it there if you want. But it's like, you know, you learn, and which I am still learning, and this is something recently that God is still dealing with me about, is just disregarding the distraction. Everything doesn't need a response. You don't have to entertain everything. You know, I told somebody, I said, just because you're invited to the party don't mean you have to go.
Right.
You don't have to you can RSVP and still not go. You know what I'm saying? And it takes an amount of discipline, maturity, and honestly, humility to just say, I mean, if I'm transparent, I had a moment earlier where I heard somebody say something, and I was just like, then I said, don't you say a word. Don't say anything. And I was able to address it, you know, a few hours later without it being explosive, because I discerned the moment. I know myself. And it's just like, you know, God, I'm a prophet, so you're God's mouthpiece.
Right.
Okay, and I'm very straightforward. I'm very blunt. And so I don't mind addressing nothing. Don't mind addressing nothing. Don't mind addressing nobody. Anybody who knows me, they will tell you. You never have to wonder. Don't ask her nothing if you don't want the truth.
Right.
Because I'm just going to be honest. And of course, you learn a filter, you learn maturity and all that along the way. But I'm still very much Zanya.
Gotcha.
And I think, honestly, I'm understanding more and more that's why God chose me. Because at the end of the day, I don't look at myself as some great prophet, pastor, whatever. And people say all the time, you know, there may times when God really elevates you and open those major doors. And I'm like, at the end of the day, I still see me as Z.
Right.
And I see myself as a vessel that just God so happened to say, I'll use her. And I'm like, you thought about me? Thank you. I was praying in my prayer closet earlier, and I said, Lord, I thank you that you counted me amongst the people who are not lost. Because it's not us that, you know, we don't have enough wisdom in us to desire God. He puts the desire for him in our heart so that we can desire him. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
And so I'm just grateful that he put that in me to even desire him, because I will be just like the world, doing me and saying all of this sounds crazy, y'all churchy folks, and all this, that, and the third. You know, just do what you want to do.
Right.
Love who you want to love.
Right.
It doesn't matter, you know, as long as you just talk to the universe.
Right.
And you'll never know him and have a personal relationship. And so I'm humble, and I am grateful, and I mean that from the depths of my soul, that he even put the desire to even desire him.
I can tell.
You see what I'm saying?
I can tell. You said something interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna put out there. So I was watching Love Is Blind, on Netflix.
Okay.
And there was one particular couple. They didn't get together, but one young lady was.
Wait. You said Love is Blind, right?
Yes.
Now, what is that about? I've never watched it.
It's about basically it's a group of people that find love through a wall. So basically, like the first few weeks or so, they just talk to each other. So it's all about basically is to focus on hearing the person, learning the person, being emotionally connected, you know what I'm saying, mentally, and not focusing on physical. Basically saying that, love doesn't have to necessarily be a physical thing. And so can you fall in love with somebody based off of just conversation with them and not actually seeing
you can.
So the show, that's what the show is based about. So some people did make it, some didn't. One that stood out to me was there was a young lady who was Catholic, and the mate and the guy that chose her, he admitted, I'm atheist. And he said, and it's not that he wasn't familiar with Catholic. I believe his mom raised him Catholic, but he strayed away from that. And he said he was atheist, but he really wanted to pursue her, knowing that. And so, of course, she was like, that's a problem. That's a problem for me. And then, then it was like, well, then he still proposed to her. And she was like, okay, let's do it. But it still was an issue. And so she was arguing with him that, this difference is going to be a problem. And what I noticed from him is that he was trying to get her to see that he was willing to learn from her. And she completely still rejected it. I want your opinion on that. Because I felt some kind of ways. I was like, okay, I'm not saying that they had to marry, obviously, to get that, for him to learn.
Right.
They could have still formed some type of relationship or whatever. I want your opinion. What do you think about something like that? Have you dealt with that?
I think it goes back to not being unequally yoked. And I remember my dad would say certain things growing up that we just thought it was a lecture. But now that I'm grown and I have my own relationship with Christ, I'm like, thank you for depositing those things in me. He used to always say, they're either going to draw you or you're going to draw them. And so at the end of the day, it's like, okay, am I just firm in my faith that I can flip them in the face? You get what I'm saying? Because I don't want them to be drawn to me mentally, emotionally, even though we're human and all those things can happen. Is Christ such a light in me that whenever he sees me and falls in love with me, that in my conversation, because he can't see me, in my conversation, am I drawn to with the love of Christ? Because the Bible says, with loving kindness have I drawn thee. Now, me personally, no, I wouldn't do it. Like, it's just some things I'm just not going to even tap into. Because you're going to get this deep. Okay? And so, and you want to be very careful, too, because you don't want to lose people by throwing Jesus in the mouth. Did I say that, or did they all run together? Jesus thing, I got you. Yeah, and so when I think about circumstances like that, it's all about having discernment. When you think about the prophet in the Bible, oh gosh, just because his wife was Gomer, just because I'm thinking about him, I think is it Hosea that the Lord had him marry a prostitute. And if you think about that in today's society, you went and got a whole 3 or 4, right? Okay, it's plenty of amazing clean church girls over here, and you sit up here telling me the Lord told you to go get a. You lying, okay? You looking at something else other than
she was saying.
You don't understand.
But she's telling me why.
Right? Yeah, like you in the.
Okay, I thought I lost you.
You good?
But
so why did he have to marry the prostitute?
Right, exactly. I'm like, the Bible says the Lord told him to because he wanted it to be an example of how Israel treats him. No, I'm trying to be your king. I'm trying to be your loving father. I'm trying to love
that
on
was
you.
to show that
And
what
this, that,
God
and the
had to go
other.
through with us.
But you for the street.
We're the prostitutes.
You know what I'm saying?
The two good
You
us.
keep
The
running
ones
to
that
idol God.
But can't never get it right.
Is that me or is that on your
No,
end?
that's
I heard
me.
some people talking. Oh, okay. But and so he wanted the prophet to marry Gomer to show Israel this is what it looks like when you betray me. This is what it looks like when you don't completely submit to me.
Mm-hmm.
We are
so when you think about it, and I'm only using an example. But when you think about it, you want to make sure you're discerning correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Because if God is trying to get the glory out of it, which I've seen it happen before, you know, where people they get with folks and you just like, what are you doing? You know. They making you question. I went to college with a girl. I mean, she was really into learning who the Lord was. She had started going to church with me. She was seeking the Holy Spirit. She was just like, I want this. And she ended up dating a guy who was a Muslim. And I told her, I said, be careful with that. Because if you're strong enough in your faith and your foundation where you're able to do it, where they won't draw you, like my dad said, they either going to draw you or going to draw them, then you'll be able to stand. And your love of Christ, you'll allow him to work through you and draw them. Okay? But what ended up happening is he drew her. He ended up drawing her, and she converted, you know, to being a Muslim. And now whenever you see her, you barely see her eyes. Her whole personality changed. It was just like she became someone totally different. And that's because she wasn't strong enough in her faith to withstand everything else that he's telling her in your ear. So when you match that up with I'm weak in my faith, and then I'm not strong mentally, emotionally, I'm vulnerable. He can tell me whatever he wants, and then I'm gonna do what he wants, because you can't compete with pillow talk. So whenever I think about circumstances like that, it's like you may want to be very careful. You have to be very careful. Who are they drawing you, or are you drawing them? But at the same time, you don't want to miss an opportunity. Because if the Lord is trying to use you to get the glory, to bring glory to his name, to show, you know what, this person was completely atheist. But I put love in their heart towards you, because they could see the God in you. Okay. To the point that they will say, you know what, I'm atheist, but I'm willing to learn. See, that's a seed. That's a seed that's planted. You know what I'm saying? And you can go back to the scripture and say, one man plants, one man water, God brings the increase. But the fact that he was willing to even like somebody who was Catholic, that lets me know that there was a seed already planted. And his parents may look at it and say, you know, that seed went to waste, but it didn't, because here she was watering that. And as she had nurtured it and watered it and listened to God and said, hey, what do you want me to do? Then it would have given God the opportunity to bring the increase. So I think I'm not going to just say, no, don't do it. I think at the end of the day, after saying all of that, at the end of the day, you know, you just want to seek God and ask God, what is it that you want me to do?
Okay.
How do you get the glory out of it? And I'm speaking from experience on that. Not that I dated an atheist, but even some people that God has been dealing with me about in the last few years, that I was just like, I mean, I'm single, but I was just like, no. But now he has shifted my heart to, Lord, when it comes to a husband, I don't want just a husband, I want a kingdom partner. So whoever you connect me with, Lord, who would you connect me with that you're going to get the most glory out of our matrimony? If you say this is my husband, will you get the most glory out of him, or this person because he looked like he suited and booted up in the word and he ain't got that much, you know, dirt on his name and this and the third? Or is it this person over here that everybody says,
don't do it
for the streets, you know? He's still out there, you know, doing his thing. He don't deserve nobody clean like you. And I was at first, you know, you were getting your feelings. And the Holy Spirit had to humble me. He was like, what makes you think he's so good? I was like, first of all, the disrespect will be tolerated. I was like, hold on, Holy Spirit, with all due respect. But it's like sometimes he has to level you out. You're not as clean as you think. And it's the blood that has washed you. It's my grace that covers you. You know, if I start just unveiling some of your stuff that you don't try to cover up, then I was like, oh, okay, let me not say
right.
You know, but it puts you in the perspective of we are all in need of grace.
Mm-hmm.
We are all in need of a Savior. And if He had have never put the desire in my heart to serve Him, then I could be just like that young man and say I'm an atheist.
Gotcha. All right, Pastor Z, we gotta wrap this thing up. Can you tell people how they can follow ZMR Ministries?
Oh yeah. It's at ZMR Ministries on everything: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. At ZMR Ministries across the board. That's it. Right now, like I said, we're gearing up for season 2.
Mm-hmm.
But you can watch all of the pre-recorded videos, the old lives and everything on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
You can go on Facebook, and all the videos are there as well. So yeah, make sure y'all log on,
Mm-hmm.
like the Facebook page, like us on or follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter,
Gotcha.
follow or subscribe to the YouTube page, and check us out.
Pastor Z, it has been a pleasure speaking with you. I definitely look forward to connecting with you again for sure. Cause you got some stuff to say.
I can talk, girl.
Yeah.
That's what I said. I don't say all of that. I hope I answered the question.
No, you fine. You're fine. We're definitely going to connect with you again. But it was a pleasure being with us today.
Thank you. I'm humbled. I'm grateful. Thank y'all so much.
Yes, ma'am. That's all I got for you all today. Make sure y'all tune in. I'm going to let you know when your show is going to air on the station so you can tune into it as well.
Okay.
All right. And that's all I got for y'all today. Until next time.
All righty. Thank y'all. God bless y'all. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.